You. There we go. And you're live.
Hi, guys. Good afternoon. It's nice to see you. We're having a quasi nice day. It's overcast a little bit, but it's not that cold, so it's not bad. Not bad at all. I hope everybody's having a great weekend so far. Ours has been interesting. I was a little under the weather this week. A little bit. Nasty headache. Turns out I have a little case of shingles, and not very fun. Wouldn't wish it on anybody, not even my worst enemy. So, but I am feeling much better now, and we're going to be painting a piggy today.
Little Piggy.
I like this piece. It's a fun piece to paint with these little cabbage roses and distressed finish, and then this sort of rustic and distressed lettering. So we're going to have some fun with that. And it's an easy paint, so just sit back, relax, pour yourself a cup of tea, and get ready to paint. I do have a giveaway today, a really nice one. I was just perusing. I just got this one because it was all held up in the mail. But Painting World magazine, I got my copy of the December issue. Finally, mail's been terrible, absolutely terrible for the last little while, and this magazine is just spectacular. Absolutely gorgeous issue now that I got to see it. But it has been held up in the mail.
Well, if you had a digital subscription, it'd be different.
It would be, yes.
You would have gotten that the day it released.
Yeah. Anyway, so that is our giveaway this week, is that we have 3 digital subscriptions to give away today, which I think is really cool. We had 2 last week, and I've got 3 for this week, thanks to Cole and everybody at the Painting World magazine. This is a beautiful issue. Cover on it is Linda Coulter and her grisaille technique. Beautiful magazine. What else did we have to discuss? We were late.
Fix the color correction.
Oh, am I looking a little peaky?
Yeah, you were a little bright.
A little bright. Okay. Well, that's a nice change. So, what else did we have to discuss this morning? Okay, they've got the prize pack. There was something. Oh, all of the prize packs from Christmas time, those have all been shipped. I know a couple of people were looking to see if they were on their way, and yes, they are. We do have 1 or 2 here that people haven't given us addresses for. One is Linda McDonald. We have a bag of goodies for you, but we can't seem to find your shipping information anywhere. And I think everybody else's has been shipped.
Yes, that's the only one.
Okay, that's the only one. And what else? I got a couple of new designs coming up soon. Hopefully we'll teach one next weekend.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So, yeah, and I got a spring piece coming up that I'm anxious to teach. The daffodils in the teapots, and I've got, or not in a teapot, in a teacup. Daffodils in a teacup. That's a fun one that's coming up. So, and tomorrow I'm teaching a Zoom class with the White Mountain Decorative Painters. I'm excited about that too. So I have a busy weekend ahead of me. And so I think, given that we have quite a bit to cover today, let's get started.
Oh, that's my cue.
That's your cue, yes. So we're going to paint the piggy. I unfortunately did not have a piggy. I thought I did, but I don't.
Here's the actual piggy.
The piggy is up there. So we're going to start with the background, and the background is pretty simple. Except under normal circumstances, it would be pretty simple.
Here's Piggy.
So here's Piggy. I love this piece. I think it's fun. It's simple. It's right in line with my favorite finishes. You know, the very distressed and rustic looking. I really like that look. Unfortunately, I didn't have another Piggy, and this one is missing a piece of his tail. But we're going to tackle it. So I've transferred everything onto a different surface, but the technique remains the same. Now, under normal circumstances, black is an easy color to find. Not so much as of late. I was at Michael's yesterday, our local Michael's store, and they had gotten a shipment of the Decor paints in.
What was that one about?
It's the lady at the shop there.
Prescription?
Oh. The lady that stocks the paint supplies at our local Michael's store informed me that they got a shipment of Decor paint in, and she said, and it was like a herd of piranha had come in. She stocked the shelf on Wednesday night, and Thursday afternoon there was like 2 bottles of paint left. It was, I kid you not, I think I found 2 shades of pink in the entire rack and a bottle of ultramarine blue, and I think that's all that was left in the rack, and she had filled it. So yeah, it didn't last very long, but check out your local Michael's store. You might be lucky and find some paint. But I went looking for black because my bottle of black was nearly empty, and just to base coat this, I had to sort of scavenge what I had left. But I was fortunate to find the big 16-ounce bottles of the Americana at the Michael's. Now they're hidden down on the bottom shelf, so I located a big bottle of this. But I have to tell you something. On the opposite side of that aisle, there is a whole section with the Michael's brand, which is the Craft Smart paint in there, and they had tons of colors in the Craft Smart. So it looked pretty good, and they had black, they had white, and a variety of other colors in there. So if you really can't find something in the Americana colors, if it's not available, I mean, try to have a look at the Craft Smart. The quality is not the same as the Americana. Let's face it, Americana is a top quality acrylic. But you know what? The Craft Smart acrylic will work just fine in a pinch, especially if you're shading or highlighting. So don't forget to check that out. What are you laughing at?
My dog howls when he hears your voice.
Oh no.
That's not good.
That is not good.
Morning, Sandy. Sandy's on.
Good morning, Lovey. Okay, so our base coat for this, I did not seal mine on this pig for a reason. I wanted to be able to bite into that MDF, into that surface a little bit. So I just base coated it with 2 coats of lamp black, and then I took my favorite little sanding disc and I sanded back at the corners and the edges until I got to see some of that MDF peeking through. You should be able to see that, where the wood or the MDF is peeking through. The reason I want that is because I'm going to put a wash of asphaltum over everything, and it's going to do 2 things. It's going to mute that black, take some of that coldness out of it, to pick up a little of that asphaltum, and it's going to stain the MDF and that paint a little bit and gives it a nice aged look. So it's just a wash of asphaltum over those sanded areas. And when you're sanding, make sure you sand right through the paint in a few places and expose some of the wood so that you get that sort of aged and distressed where the paint is worn through a little bit.
Michael's is classified as non-essential in Quebec. That sucks.
But I think they still have curbside delivery. I know ours does here. I don't know about the Quebec stores.
The worst one I've tried is the Anita's brand from Hobby Lobby. I had lifting issues with it.
Oh, adhesion issues. So that's all you have to do is put that wash. Now what it does, I don't know if you can see it that clearly on camera, but what it does is it creates a warm, aged look on top of that black. So it doesn't look so harsh.
It shows up when you move it around you.
Yeah, so it doesn't look so harsh. And I like that those areas where I sanded through, you can see this sort of stained appearance at the edges. So that's what you do to get that kind of aged appearance on that surface. And you can let it dry, and if you want more, by all means put more on. But I really like when I get this nice warm tone on top of that black.
We should start a petition to have paint at eye level.
I completely agree. Who wants to do yoga when you go to a craft store? I know. If
Some
you
people
have to,
do. There might be somebody out there who says, that's a great idea.
Not so much. I'm going to dry this real quick.
I wish I could get some open. Everybody wishes they could get a lot of stuff right now.
So it kind of takes that wash of asphaltum, just warms up that black, and it ages those edges nicely so that you get this warm, distressed feel to it. And it softens it out a little bit. So that's what we've done to this pig. When you have a close look, all these little areas at the edges of the pig where we'd sanded through the paint right into the MDF took on that warm, rustic look at the edges. I love that look.
Thanks for the new to me asphaltum wash technique.
Yeah, it's just a loose wash of color over top of everything. So you can leave it brighter in some areas and darker in others, and that works just fine. So I have everything already traced onto my surface.
Where is that pattern? Right there. There you go. Did you know that Home Depot online sells DecoArt paint? You can buy online, pick it up at your local store.
Yes.
Cool.
Yep. So I have everything traced on. Now, ordinarily, I am after everybody to, when you're tracing your lettering using a ruler. In this particular case, we want this to look quite distressed. And we want this to look old. So I'm not overly concerned with getting things perfectly crisp because I think it goes against the grain in this particular case. So I paid attention when it came to the horizontal and the vertical, but everywhere else I didn't really worry too much about it. So making sure that it was level was the biggest thing. So I centered it onto my piece and then I traced it on. I used white graphite for that. And we're going to start with our lettering. Now ordinarily I leave the lettering till the end, but in this case we're going to start with the lettering. Now I'm using a 0 rigger. I don't have any in stock, but you can check with the brush guys and you can check with Maureen Baker. They both may have them, but I am out of stock at the time being.
We have no riggers.
No, we are completely out of riggers.
Out. None. Zero. Zilch.
So I'm going to use warm white and I'm thinning it out with a fair amount of water. I'm also out of Joe Sonia's fast drying glaze. All I have is magic medium right now. So I'm using a fair amount of water to get it nice and thin.
We're running out of supplies. Send help.
So,
or wine.
Or wine. Yeah. Can't have one and have the other. So the lettering, I'm not going to use my usual technique. We're just getting color in place. And I have a lot of water in this. So the lettering is not going to be consistent.
And it's going to dry more opaque, right?
And it's going to dry less opaque.
Less opaque. That's what I meant.
So I want this lettering to look rough and I want it to look distressed. So I am not being particularly attentive to the crisp, clean lines as I usually am. I want these letters to be some brighter, some not so bright. And this is a fun technique because once I'm done, I'm going to sand this back.
I guess not in Canada?
What's not in Canada?
I don't know. I don't know what the context is on that. Can I zoom in? Abso-friggin-lutely.
So there is that lettering. I'm just painting it in. I'm filling in the space, but I am not taking particular care to get them opaque. I want them irregular. So again, neatness doesn't count. Perfection is to be avoided at all costs.
Yeah, I guess I'm missing the context of that comment. Good morning from Winnipeg. Are you going to be getting more riggers in?
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Oops.
Can you use the magic medium in place of Joe Sonia fast drying medium?
I have been using it. I've had to water it down. I find it a little thick. The fast drying glaze is nice thin consistency, like water or milk. The magic medium's a little thicker.
Home Depot in Canada does not sell deco art.
No,
Only
they
American
don't.
stores do.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the context.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Only Home Depot in the U.S. sells Americana. So the fun part about this is that, this is very forgiving, doing this type of lettering with this thinned out paint, and it's kind of wishy-washy looking. And
the oopsies just only add character.
And the oopsies add character, so you don't really have to worry too much about it. This one is going to look very rustic and distressed, which is what I want. And the roses are so fun to paint.
I think that's the part you can't wait to do.
I'm excited about doing the roses. I think that's why I just wanted to get the lettering out of the way.
Because you usually do the lettering last.
I do, but I really want to spend more time painting the flowers. And I haven't really painted much this week.
A lot of well-being messages.
Aw, that's nice.
I'm so glad you're better and that you're able to see your smiling face this afternoon. Learned such great lettering techniques from your videos. Terrific.
I'm so tickled you guys come and join me every Saturday.
What is the purpose of using Jo Sonia's fast drying medium?
Fast drying medium is the fast drying glaze is my everything product. Instead of using water to float with or to do line work with, I love this explanation. When you thin paint with water, you reduce its ability to adhere to the surface because you are changing its composition. And so it has less binders. The pigment has nothing to hold on to. Every one of us has worked on something, especially with line work, because you have to put so much water in your paint, that when you go to varnish, you wipe off all your detail work or all your line work because there's no binders left in the paint. By using a medium like Jo Sonia's fast drying glaze, you're not diluting the paint. You're just thinning it by using a glaze medium. So it continues to adhere to the surface.
I like how you're looking at me when like I asked a question.
Well, there's nobody else in the room.
Bring it forward a bit. There you go. I'm zooming in a little bit more so they can see that.
So you can see that this lettering is not all the same value. It's not all the same color. Some of it's kind of grayed out. Some of it is white. Very little of it is actually fully opaque. And that works in our favor in this case because we're going to distress this back even further. And I kind of like this, rough look.
You make my Saturday.
Aw, you guys make my Saturday too. This is fun for me.
You bring us sunshine on these cloudy days. Why does that sound like a song?
It does.
Ain't no sunshine? No.
So you can see this lettering is not, I am not being all that meticulous about this lettering. I want this distressed looking. I want this rustic looking.
Water can medium. Water can medium.
Water is a great medium for acrylic paint, but there does come a point where you can put too much water in your paint and it'll no longer, it's just pigment sitting on top of the surface.
Yeah.
So when you get to that point, it's no longer bonded to the surface.
It's just the way it's written. Water can medium.
Yeah.
As if medium is an adjective.
Yep.
I have learned so much from you. Love the comments from the cameraman. You make my heart smile. Aw.
So around this lettering,
Oop.
there's all this little detail work in here.
Carolyn Miller wishes you a Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you too. So you can take that same thinned paint and a liner to add all of these little detail lines in there. And again, I am not too worried about getting them perfect.
What kind of brush is that?
This is the 10-aught extra long detail liner.
There you go.
And it is...
Somebody was going to ask.
Someone was going to ask. And it's the Micron. I love this brush. This is like lately has been my favorite liner.
That's the one that was typically used for like models, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The micron brushes are all really tiny. They're very small. So they have, even the fan brush is like half an inch. It's a tiny little fan brush. But they're fantastic and durable. Like the bristle in this thing is unreal. Pretty tough. So nice fine lines on those. But again, I'm not being too fastidious about it. I want them to be.
Hey, don't go off camera, you.
Am I off camera again? Oh, the pig's in the way.
Yeah. Typical pig.
I love lettering and things. I just find it lends a lot of character and interest to things. And
You read my mind. I was just going to ask what size brush you're using. It's like I've done this before.
So
Oh,
I'll just quickly finish out this word. I know somebody is going to ask. Charcuterie Moreau de l'Hôtel de Ville. L'Hôtel, this means City Hall, by the way. The actual translation means City Hall, not a hotel. But it was just taken from an old label and I changed the wording around, so it doesn't really mean anything in particular. It's more of the graphic that's important, less than what it says.
Do you use the clear glaze medium straight? Does it make your paint too transparent or regular for regular painting?
The Joe Sonya's fast drying glaze works just like water does with your acrylic. It's crystal clear, so it will work just fine. It's no different than using the water. I use it like I would use water. So if I'm going to float, I dress my brush in the Joe Sonya's medium, and then I pick up my paint, and I float just like I would with water. What the medium does is it makes the paint nicely transparent. It gives you lots of control. It stays open a little longer than the water would, meaning it stays wet a little bit longer, but closes up quickly enough that you can continue to work, which gives you the ability to correct things.
Oh, I got a good tip.
What's that?
Here. Linda Engstrom
Okay.
ordered the Micron from Stockade. If only I could stop my shaking hands. I have a tip.
Okay.
It's the old pinky.
The pinky.
You put your pinky on your project, it steadies your hand from shaking.
Yeah.
I learned that while doing dagger strokes.
And you can do that with liner brushes too. It's
the old pinky. It stabilizes your hand for some reason. I don't ask me why, but
it does.
Because my hands shake a lot too.
Yeah. Renee did a lot of motorcycle work, airbrush work, and working with stripers to do pinstriping and things like that. So he's
you need a steady hand.
You need a steady hand. So he's pretty adept when it comes to working with that striper.
I also found ways to cheat too.
Oh well, there's always ways to cheat.
Doing pinstripes with a ruler is easier than doing it freehand. You just gotta have the right ruler.
Yeah.
Vinyl bottom ruler for the size of motorcycle tanks. You just place your dagger stripe at one end, press as far as you want the thickness to be, and then just move the brush and ruler at the same time. It keeps it nice and straight.
Yeah. We have a number of different tools in decorative painting for that too. I have one for drawing borders on things that has multiple holes so that you can just use the edge of the surface as your guide. So it works very well. I did find some cool tools recently though.
I just bought 2 Micron brushes, excited to use them. There's a little internal conversation going on here. It's all good. It's community. Love your videos. Have been painting since 1990.
Oh, that's a while. I've been painting since 1975.
I live about 40 miles south of Seattle. Go Hawks. Oh, yeah.
Seahawks.
Seahawks. Football.
Football.
Uh-oh, angry face.
There's nothing better than going to Seattle when the Seahawks are playing.
Oh yeah, they love this.
It's fun. You go out for pizza,
Everybody.
you know.
Yeah, everybody loves the Seahawks.
Yeah. They do love their Hawks. You got to give them credit. So there you have it. I've done the lettering. There's some tiny little lettering here. And a little circonflex above the O in the hotel. I have to put the line work on that.
Ah, Edward Hensley.
Hi, Edward.
Since he introduced me to the rigger, I love him.
So this is the fun part. Look at how this lettering, none of it is solid. None of it is perfect. I really like how this is less than perfect. A lot of the interesting things are in the imperfections. So I'm going to dry this paint. Now the fun part.
You should make a list of your favorite tools and supplies. You don't want to see that list. You do not. I'm looking at it, and no.
So once you have all of your lettering done, and we are going to talk about all of this detail stuff up top and bottom in just a second, this is what you're going to do. And I know it's going to be scary, but it will be fine, I promise. You're going to lightly sand and distress through that lettering.
All that lettering that you guys spent so long.
But I didn't spend so long, that's the thing. So notice I'm only going in one direction.
1977 and still learning. Wow.
Oh yeah, you're always learning. I learn something new every day. So I have sanded through. Now I am not being too gentle with this, I can tell you. So then I'm going to take my BAB, and I'm going to apply a wash of that asphaltum right over that lettering.
Gonna give it a yellow.
It does two things. It subdues that brightness, the white, softens it a bit, but it also marries it to the background because we've put the asphaltum on that background already. So all those little baubles, or what looked like little baubles and imperfections, suddenly become part of the finish because we've taken away that hard-edged and unfinished look and softened it out. I love how this looks. It just gives it a nice distressed feel. So I'm going to grab my liner again. And we're going to talk about all this little filigree and delicate line work that's in there. And that is also done with the warm white. And it's also not going to be perfect.
We don't want perfection.
No, we do not want perfection. So we're going to use that liner brush.
Yes, Renee, we do want to see the list of faves. I bet your name is at the top of her list. No. No, it's not. No. It is not at the top of her list.
Pretty close, though.
I'm close. Not that close.
So I use that liner brush to do that delicate work. And I'm not putzing much with it, if you get my drift. I'm not worrying about being perfect. I'm going to get rid of all of those things that are in the way, those graphite lines and whatnot. Oops. I oopsied. Oh, did I ever oopsie?
Oh, yeah. I can see it from here.
A little bit of water will take care of that, though.
Do you get all your brushes from the brush guys? No.
No, I get my brushes from Dynasty.
Direct. What new tools did you find this week?
Oh, that was just it. On top of my desk there's the blue handles right under the computer monitor. Pale blue handles.
Okay.
And on the rack over there, it's blue and white and bendy.
Huh?
Yeah. These are cool. I found these.
What?
Yeah.
These are brushes?
Bring him.
Okay, those are cool.
I found these. These are really
Those could
cool.
be useful.
These are really cool. Look at these.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I do.
These were actually for working with clay. But these are nifty little rub-out tools or wipe-out tools. So I could see these being used to cut into textures. I mean, if you can manipulate clay with them, there's no reason why you couldn't manipulate paint with them. So you could use those points to cut into texture mediums and sculpt and move paint around and pull paint off for all sorts of things. So these are really cool. These are
What are those made by?
these are a Michaels brand. These I believe are, is it Art Wines or something like that? Or anyway, I thought these were really cool, so I had to get a set. So, and they weren't that expensive. I think it was $10 for the whole set. So these are really neat. I just thought this. And this is a cool item. This is made by Stadler. Stadler.
Whoop.
And it has two types of measure on it. It has centimeters on one side and inches on the other. But have you ever tried to measure around a curved surface with a straight ruler? We've always had to come up with the alternative using a piece of string measured out and whatnot. You don't have to do that anymore. This can measure all the way around a curved surface. So how cool is that? So if you're working on jars or vases or big cans or something like that, then get yourself one of these. I found this in the drafting section at a tape measure.
That's what a tape measure's for.
Yeah. But I thought this was cool. But what's nice is that it holds its shape.
Okay.
You know? So this is really cool. And so being able to do it with one hand, it's not so easy to do that with a tape measure. But I thought this was a really cool idea.
Holly says, I have those brushes. They're fantastic. Or they're great.
So those are the two tools that I located this week that I thought were really, really cool. Was
I have
this
those. They take
flexible
mistakes
ruler.
off quick.
Yeah. And yeah, I thought this was a really neat, really, really neat tool. So I was excited about that. So I just got to figure out a project to use them on. And then
Where did you get the ruler?
the ruler, believe it or not, I found that at Staples.
Yeah, Stadler.
Yeah. Stedler, I found it at Staples, and it's in the section where they have the drafting supplies.
I'll be right back. No, they're just...
So, all of those little detail lines in there, you're going to do with your liner brush. And again, I don't piddle around too much with them because a lot of it is going to be distressed anyhow. So I'm not overly worried about the perfection of it. And these are little details. They can be fun, but they can also be a pain. So if you've got areas where you need a little dot at the bottom, leave them blank until you have all of the line work done, and then go back in with a stylus and put those dots in if you want to keep them a bit more uniform. So all of that line work is also done with that thinned warm white. And again, neatness doesn't count and perfection is to be avoided at all costs. Because for this particular piece, it isn't necessary to be too concerned with it, because we're going to distress them and wear a lot of it off. I always like that rustic appearance when it comes to a lot of this type of thing. Even when you look at the original advertisements and printing and the graphics weren't digitally perfect. Obviously, they were using an old-fashioned method of printing them. So a lot of those details were irregular to start with. So,
My bad.
what did you do?
Oh, God. Sorry. There's going to be some switching there.
So that's the fun part. You're going to take all of that detail lining in there. Now there is a straight line here, a straight horizontal line. I've drawn it as straight as I can. I used the ruler to get it level. So do the best you can with it. A long time
you're still
ago.
using the micron?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Long time ago, I had a painting teacher that taught me when
You're welcome.
when you're doing line work, that especially something that was a long line, if you had to pull something and you needed it to be fairly straight, don't look where you are.
Where are you going?
Look where you're going. So you might put the brush down over here, but you shouldn't be looking at the tip of the brush. You should be looking at where you're going to end up and just simply pull the stroke to that point. If you try to draw it with the brush, it does all sorts of nasty things. It gets wobbly and it's never straight, never looks as good as it should. So don't look where you're going, where you're at. Look where you're going.
Wow, you have a steady hand. No, actually, if you were to...
If you get to see this really up close, it's not it's not that steady. So, and let me show you what I mean by...
But she's using the pinky trick.
I'm using that pinky trick, using my little finger to stabilize my hand. And I pull the stroke. I'm not... Oopsie.
Yeah.
I know. So I'm looking where I'm going. I'm not looking at where I am. So I'm going to just finish out this half.
I have no sound.
Because I want to get to the flowers. The
Well,
flowers are my goal.
Need all the liner tips I can get. Yeah. I missed the beginning. We'll rewatch that part later. I like that liner. I hope you have told what brush it is.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's a what?
It is a
Micron
10-aught
10-aught.
extra long detail liner. So I'm going to dry this real quick just so that I can show you what it looks like when it's distressed. And again, you're going to come in and take that sanding sponge and gently sand it. Because we want this to look like it's been there since time out of mind. So I've sanded through, and now I'm going to take my BAB.
It looks so delicate.
And I'm just going to apply, again, a wash of that asphaltum over top of it. And it does. It looks delicate, but it doesn't look perfect, which is what we want for this piece.
I told a friend who had Parkinson's about the straight line trick. She was so excited to go home and show her husband that she could do a straight line. I've seen people with this gentleman at a car show doing the hood of a car, and he had Parkinson's, and it was severe Parkinson's.
Wow.
And as soon as he picked up a brush and started doing pinstriping on that car,
Yeah.
it just stopped.
Wow.
I don't know what he was doing, but it looked like he was just had an off switch. He went from this shaky old man to this professional signer to
Wow.
doing pinstripes.
So there it is. You get that rustic, very distressed appearance by not putting a ton of paint on or using very thin paint. I love how this looks. And it's nice and smooth. It has that
Okay, I'm gonna
distressed appearance.
gotta zoom out. We're getting on to
Now we're going to move on to these leaves. I like doing the leaves first.
Karen Jones has entered the building.
So I am using This one is a 3/8. It's a black gold angled shader for this. Now, the color I'm using is sap green, and that's in the fluid acrylics. And most people have been really having a hard time getting their hands on these because they're not in production right now because of all of the slowdown and whatnot. And they're not in huge distribution either, so there's only a few locations where you can get them. I do know that Maureen Baker at maureenbaker.com still has some. So if you're looking to get some media acrylics, she's a great resource. Now the pattern calls for the fluid acrylics, and these are the colors that I'm using in this. I've used the fluid acrylic titanium white, the sap green, green gold, which is that citrony yellow green, and quinacridone magenta. Now, I know that these colors are difficult to get, and I want to make your life as simple as possible. So, the sap green.
Didn't notice this before, but the charcuterie has your last name.
So the colors that you can substitute the sap green with plantation pine. These are not perfect substitutions, but they're close enough. So plantation pine, to substitute the green gold, I've used olive green. And to substitute the quinacridone magenta, I'm using alizarin crimson. Now again, these are not perfect substitutions. They are not the exact conversion, but they are close enough. So there you go. If you don't have the fluid acrylic, pardon me, plantation pine, olive green, alizarin crimson, and titanium white in the Deco Art Americana will be an ideal substitute.
cdwood.com also carries the Deco Art fluid acrylics.
Oh, excellent. There we go. So I am using the sap green or plantation pine to shade these. Now the leaves are base coated with this color. This is aloe, which is a kind of muddy, minty gray green. And I want to liven it up a little. It's nice and opaque, which is why I used it in the first place. So I'm going to liven this up a little bit. So all of the shading that I'm doing is done with that sap green or plantation pine.
What are the dimensions of the plaque you're painting on?
This one is, I believe it's 12 by 7, but let's check just to be on the safe side. No, it's 12 and a quarter by 7.5. So I'm shading with the plantation pine, or sap green in this case. Ooh.
Is there a conversion list from media to Americana available anywhere?
No, there is not. And kind of like apples and oranges. The fluid acrylics are very transparent, whereas the Americanas are a bit more opaque, and they vary. Some are transparent and some are opaque. But for the most part, the fluid acrylics are transparent, with a few exceptions, but they're colors like the various gray values and the Titan buff. So,
well, that answers the next question, which was, what is the difference between the media and the fluid acrylic, or the Americana and the media?
The biggest difference between them is the pigment load. The fluid acrylics have a very high pigment load. It's more of a professional grade acrylic.
I have two bottles of the media white, and both bottles have become very thick.
Yes, the titanium white has a tendency to become very thick.
Is there something I can do or use to thin it out?
Yes, absolutely. You can use a little bit of water to thin them out, or you can use a little bit of the Joe Sonia's Fast Drying Glaze. So,
love your Saturday morning painting mini seminar. And they're free!
So there I have my shading in. On those little leaves, I like just to put a little shadow at the base of the leaf, like so. Just makes them more interesting in the end. So I have my shading in place. This one's not quite dry, and then I'll shade the center line.
Yeah, make sure it's on the zoom line, you know?
Oops.
Oh, give me a second. My zoom function stopped working.
Oh no.
Oh, I got it.
So I have my shading on.
Do you carry the pig wood piece? No.
No, the pig wood piece is available from cdwood.com.
I have a button for that.
Cupboard Distributing has that.
I have a button for that. I don't have a button for that.
For CD Wood? Yes, you do.
Yes, I do. There it is. Ta-da!
Yep. So these roses, these are such fun to paint. They're just fun to paint. One, they're kind of goofy looking, but they are really, really simple. Now, I use tools a lot when it comes to tracing patterns, and the reason I do is because I like things to be kept crisp and clean. So if it's round, then it should stay round, and that's when I use circle makers for tracing and transferring. So when I have my pattern, comme ça, so here we have our Piggy pattern. When it comes to tracing these roses on, I will find the circle that best fits. And then I will trace inside using this as the guide. Because then you get nice, perfect, neat, tidy circles. And that helps you keep nice, neat, and tidy circles. So if you're looking for something like this, instead of ending up with egg-shaped roses, it's a good idea to use one of these tools when tracing the pattern on. I also, when I'm creating a pattern like this, I also use circle makers anytime something has to be round. So if I'm drawing pearls for one of my skull pieces, I'm using a circle maker to do those pearls so that they're all the right size and that they stay round. And I do the same thing when I'm tracing line drawings like this one on. I'll use the circle maker to ensure that I get nice, crisp, clean, round roses.
I know this has been asked, and I apologize for having to repeat it, but would you mind giving a list of your brushes that you are using for this project? It's actually in the pattern, isn't
Yep, the list is in the pattern, but it is a pretty simple supply list when it comes to brushes. I use a variety of angled shaders, usually 3/8, 1/4 inch, and 1/2 inch. Those are them. You want a really good liner brush, a 10-aught, which is what this one is a 10-aught extra long detail liner from Micron. And I'm using a 0 rigger or a number 2, whichever you can get your hands on, but either one will work just fine.
Do you sell the circle makers?
I don't. The circle makers you can find at Michael's, believe it or not. They have these available.
Michael's, Staples, Walmart.
Michael's, Staples, Walmart has them. I mean, these can be found in almost any school section.
Geometry set.
They have these available all over the place. This one is by Westcott. I believe I have several of them. And they also come in this small format, but you can also get them with really big circles. So there's a variety of sizes and shapes, but those can be found at most office supply stores. So I'm using a 10-aught, a 1/2 inch angle shader, a 1/4 inch angle shader. I use a filbert or a round to base coat these areas, a number 2 rigger or a 0 rigger for the lettering, and then for the background, I use a 3/4 flat wash.
Oh, CD Wood also sells a...
Oh, she has the circle makers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently she has the circle and square stencil.
Yes. Yeah. So, roses, it's time to paint flowers. I've been waiting for this. I love painting flowers. So, I have base coated the flowers on this with bright salmon and vintage pink. Now, I base coated this and then decided to read my own instructions. And I got the flowers backwards. So, of course I did. So the flower here is my pattern, so I can do whatever I want. So if you're reading through the instructions, you'll notice that I got the flowers backwards. So the ones that I painted vintage pink, the big one, it should have been the bright salmon. And the one that I painted bright salmon should have been the vintage pink. So
Angry salmon.
Angry salmon. So these are great colors. I love both of these. This vintage pink is one of my favorites. And the bright salmon is just this gorgeous coral color. So I'm going to do something really off the wall. I'm going to shade these with quinacridone magenta, which is this bright magenta color. Look at this. It's like a red violet. It's a very strong color. So you're going to use a lot of water with this. And this is our shading color. Now, if you have a look at the line drawing, you see all of these. It's a very simple line drawing. So we're going to shade inside those lines. We're going to start in the center, and we're going to put a float of that quinacridone magenta up against the line, darkest value against the line, like so. These are going to look really wonky for a little bit. And they are going to look rough. That's okay. But it is going to change the color of these flowers a little bit. So that shading goes into all of those little triangles.
It's your design. You're allowed to make mistakes. You said it was a mistake. Ah.
So you can see where that shading goes. How am I in the shot here? I just want to make sure I'm...
You're perfect right there. Actually.
Okay.
I can zoom in more if you leave it there.
Okay. So you can see where that shading goes. Now you're going to do the same thing on this side. I want the shading on this side of that flower. So I'm going to put a shadow right here on this side of the rose. Oops. Now each one of those flowers, regardless of the color, whether it's that vintage pink or it's the bright salmon, they all get shaded with this primary quinacridone magenta, up against that line. I love this color. Now that alizarin crimson will do the same thing. It's da, 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 da. This is a great color. And I'm going to put a shadow along the back side of that as well.
Itchy.
Oops.
Nope. Please zoom in. That's as far as I can zoom in without losing it. You can only zoom in so much before quality goes out the window.
So there it is. I'm going to strengthen it just so that it's a little clearer. So I can deepen that float to make that color a little deeper. This is going to look rough. Don't worry, it will smooth out as we go, because we're going to start highlighting these flowers, and we're going to do that shortly so that you can see.
Actually, if you leave the piece right there, you can do most of those flowers in the shot.
Yeah. So there we go. I've got my shading color in place on that flower.
I notice you haven't had to reload your brush. Is it because of the medium you
Yes,
used?
it is.
Also,
Having that little bit of medium in your brush, it helps the paint flow.
there you go.
Keeps it nice and transparent too. So this flower is based with the vintage pink. And so I'm going to pick up a small amount of vintage pink. And I'm going to take a small amount of warm white, and I'm going to make a lighter value of that vintage pink. And this is the first highlight that we're going to do. And you're going to put that highlight right here. Now I'm doing this, I'm being a little more aggressive than I ordinarily would be so that it shows up on camera. So that color value has changed drastically. And I'm going to float right on that edge of that petal and right here.
Sandy, I love those colors together.
And again, at the edge, so opposite of where we put the shadow. And again, you'll notice it is not neat and perfect. You have to turn this thing this way so I can do this.
Still in the shot.
Okay. So there is my highlight color on the edge of that petal. So this is where things get a little sketchy because I'm going to take that same angled brush and I'm going to pick up a little asphaltum. And I'm going to blend it out on my palette so it's nice and thin.
Thanks for doing this video. I look forward to watching you every week from Bath, Ontario. Nice.
And now I'm going to come in with that asphaltum and I'm going to deepen that shadow with the asphaltum.
Who knew I might be able to do this?
And so wherever you put that quinacridone magenta, you're going to float over it with a weak float of the asphaltum. And just avoid that area where you just highlighted. And this is where things get fun. I'm going to take that warm white and I'm going to blend it out on my brush and I'm going to put in a highlight a little bit smaller right over that first highlight. And it's a little narrower and it's going to be a little brighter and right at the edge.
My husband says everything is paused while Tracy paints and wants to know what Tracy is making for lunch.
I'm not making anything for lunch. So I'm brightening that highlight at the edge of the petals. Right there. Yes, that was my tummy. Maybe I should make lunch.
It's funny how that started immediately after somebody said lunch. What was that?
So,
Fabulous, having the ability to change the color of the font we use. White on white is tough. Kudos to Renee for being able to read it. Oh, it's because I have a black background. That's why I can read it.
so every time you brighten that highlight, those roses take on more shape. So I'm going to take that same white and we're going to give it a highlight on this side, on the outside edge of that flower. And I've got way too much paint in my brush.
You make it so smooth and easy. I get stuck in knowing proper loading of paint with mediums.
You know, the trick when it comes to having a brush load, think of it as water. You know, treat it like it's water. It's no different. It has a very similar consistency, so it doesn't really change that much.
Does the Joe Sonia's glaze make the paint shiny?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit.
It does change the sheen of it a little bit, but I use matte medium a lot when I paint
I
too.
think they're getting that from the video because
Yeah.
As soon as you lay it down,
Yeah.
it has a bit of a shine to it.
So I'm taking my asphaltum again, And I'm going to shade the shaded side of my rose, like so.
The rose is coming to life now.
The rose is coming to life now. Now the fun part.
In the shot.
There it is.
No, it's not. There you go.
So the fun part of this is now you get to play with some of this line work. And this is where things can be a little less than perfect, which is what I like. I like them to be a little less than perfect. So the final highlight on the edges of these petals are done with titanium white, because we want the brightest value of white. Whoops, too much white.
Itchy forehead. Where's the chat? I've lost chat.
So I've got a little bit of titanium white on that liner brush, and this is where I'm going to put that final highlight in. I'm going to use that fine line and put a very fine line of white right on the edge of that petal. Comme ça.
I guess you might as well congratulate Robin Miles.
Robin Miles, you just won one of the digital subscriptions to Painting World magazine. Now, if you are already subscribed and would like to gift your prize, just provide us with the email address for the person that you would like to gift it to, and we will take care of making sure that they get their subscription. I know that a lot of you painters have subscriptions already, but if you happen to win a digital one, it would be a nice gift, nice thing to give to a fellow painter friend if you don't need it. So there we go. We've got that highlight on the edge of the petals. And now we're going to do something similar to the outside of the flower. And we're going to use a very sketchy fine line to the outside edge of the flower. And now what this does is just implies that there are petals out here as well. And once we do that, then we will finish out our leaves and some of that line work at that. So you can see that these flowers are not difficult to paint, and that there is a lot of room to just play a little bit. So that's got our line work on it. Now we have one more step with these roses, and this is one that I really like. You can use a stylus, or you can use your liner brush, or whatever you use to do tiny little dots. And I like to add 3 or 4 sunny day, bright yellow little dots to the center of my roses. And that brings them to life. So the leaves, we've only got a couple more steps. Now I take a little bit of that green gold, and we're going to put a wash of that color over the whole leaf. So I'm going to thin a little of it out, and we're going to pull a little of that green gold over the whole leaf. Now it completely changes the look of this leaf when you do that, when you put that wash of that bright green over it. It gives them a whole bunch of vibrancy.
Robin Miles says she will be gifting it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Robin. That's very sweet. You're going to make a friend very happy.
She will be sending you an email.
Excellent. Thank you. And thank you for watching, Robin. I appreciate it. So look at how vibrant that little coat, that little wash of that green gold over top of those leaves. They just pop. And I'm just using a quick float. It's not even all that neat and tidy, but it does drastically change the look of those leaves. Just brings them to life. So now we're going to give them a really bright highlight. Now I'm using a little bit of warm white, and I'm just using the white to make this green a little more opaque. Just a little. And we're going to use that as our highlight color. So there's the highlight opposite the shadow on the tips of those leaves and along that center vein. It's just a quick float. Do the same thing on the opposite side. And you can take that color and come out to the tips of these little leaves out here and add a little float there as well. And that brings that highlight out to the point of the leaf. Just like so. So fun. This project relies on imperfection to give it character. And I'm a firm believer that nothing has to be utterly perfect.
Do you have the glaze in each bit of paint, or do you dip it into the glaze somewhere on the palette?
I dip it into, I keep a little jar. Where's my fat jar? Here it is. I keep a little jar full of it. And so I'll have a shot glass or something like that full on my painting table. And when my brush starts to run out, I just dip it in like I would with water, draw off the excess up the side of the jar, and then load my brush as usual. I have instructions in the pattern on how I use the Jo Sonja's medium. And it does make a big difference, especially if you struggle with floating. You will find that it really does help control the paint. So now we have our highlight in place. One of the final things that I like to do with my leaves and with vines, I'm going to take my green gold and pick up a little bit of warm white. I'm just making a slightly lighter and more opaque value of that lighter green, and this is going to be the vines and the tendrils on my pieces. So I like to use that mixture to do my vines. I also do it to connect things.
Zoom out a little bit so they can see a little bit more.
I like that. It's brighter, especially on that black. I like the high contrast on the black.
I just love how mesmerized I get watching your videos. I feel my blood pressure just relax.
So if you notice, I put sort of a little scribbly line outside of my leaves. I just find it softens them. They look less hard edged. You can, and it is fine line. I don't worry about them being too perfect. And it's just to soften that line in the edge of them.
Is that gold green called gold green?
It's called green gold.
And gold green gold.
You can use olive green to replace that one.
Sandy's asking if you could push it up a little bit. Boom.
So that loose little scribbly line, I like putting those around my leaves. It just softens things. And it's one of those things that I sometimes forget about. Not to forget to do them, but forget to mention them. I've noticed it in a couple of patterns that I did it, but didn't think about it when I was writing the instructions. So,
Linda Safranco is wondering, what is the size of the curve on top? I want to cut one out.
he's going to measure it for you. Depth to the edge. It's about 2 inches to the top edge.
And about 7.
And about 7 inches across.
Yeah. And yes, I am tattooed. I have a lot. Well, I have a few.
You have a few.
Every time I see new product on something I don't have, I want to buy it.
I got an amazing set of Prismacolor pencils for Christmas. My husband, God love him, gave me a beautiful set of pencils.
He is what we call an enabler.
He is an enabler. Yes, he is. God love him.
Claire LaRue.
Ah, Claire.
Claire LaRue is another name.
Yep. Claire LaRue is another winner.
Yes.
Is our third? Second.
Second.
Second
We
winner.
got one more.
So Claire LaRue. And she is where?
Oh, I don't know. Let's find
So
out.
Claire, send us an email or a message with your email address. And again, if you're already subscribed to the magazine and would like to gift it, send us the email address for the person you want us to forward it to.
Where is Claire LaRue? I just had her comment up there. And then we had a bunch of comments. It disappeared. You're in here somewhere. I know that.
Painting World Magazine has been very, very generous with us. And we so appreciate that kind of support.
And those of you wondering how you enter to win, all you do is leave a comment.
Leave a comment and hit the share button, and you'll be in the running for one of the giveaways that we have. We've been very fortunate that Deckwart Dynasty and Painting World Magazine and Viking Woodcrafts have been so generous, and Stampenda Stamps. They've been so generous in providing us with things to give away. And we appreciate you coming, and this is just a little reward for your support, and I'm grateful to those companies for being that generous. And Deckwart's been amazing, and I have to tell you that I have some really great friends in this industry, and they have been incredibly supportive. I mean, you know that my partner in crime, Deb Antonek, and my dear sweet Sandy. Sandy and I work together with Deckwart, and she has been amazing in supporting me in this as well. She has an amazing group. If you are not a member, the next time she opens up membership, you have to join her group. It's incredible. Sandy Kids is unbelievable. That woman has so much creativity, and she's so generous in sharing it. So I love the lives that I watch with her. They're fantastic. And if you missed it, she was live yesterday on the Deckwart Facebook page. Did an amazing journal page. It was absolutely phenomenal live. So much fun and a great project. So there we go. I've got my leaves finished. Got the highlights in, got the shading in. I've done all my loose little lines and tendrils around the outside edge. I'm going to grab my shader and a little asphaltum, and I'm going to tone the leaves. This is where I deepen some shadows with a little asphaltum, and it warms things up, and it tones them to the same family as the roses, because the roses, I toned those down with a little bit of asphaltum over that pink, and I'm going to do the same thing to the leaves.
Tracy, you are so sweet and your son is funny. Love your projects. Rose from Kent, Washington.
Thank you, Rose. There we go. So, guys, that's it. This is such a fun piece to paint. These little roses, these little fat roses, little cabbage roses. They're cute. They're easy to do. They're easy to draw. I mean, all you need is a circle maker. Get yourself a circle maker. Have some fun with the lettering. Try not being too perfect and see what you get out of it. And don't be afraid to distress things. I mean, it's just paint. You wear through it. You don't like it, you put more paint on. It's as simple as that.
We definitely appreciate all these companies supporting you and allowing us the opportunity to learn about all the different products and companies we had no idea was out there. It's like a whole new world.
You know what's really cool? We've got, every year Deckwort puts out new colors. Sandy and I both got a sneak peek last week at what's coming up. You guys are going to love it.
Oh.
It's exciting.
I need a camera. There you go.
Yep, Sandy and I both got a sneak peek this past week at what's coming up, and there is some exciting stuff. We don't have dates yet. We don't know when it's all going to be released, and we can't show you any of it until it's ready to go. But I can tell you this. We are going to have great new colors. A lot of them. We're going to have a lot of new colors. Some great new colors. Some amazing new product. You're going to just lose your mind when you see these. They are going to launch. Don't know when. That's pretty fluid the way things are these days. So, but yeah, there's lots of exciting stuff coming up from Deckwort. Same with Dynasty Brush. They've got some beautiful new products. You got to get a sneak peek at a few of them with the Water Lily, the new watercolor brushes. Those are fantastic and really making waves.
Oh man, I cannot keep up with the comments.
Tons and tons and tons of new brush ideas.
What
Viking.
is Sandy's last name?
Warner McTeer.
There you go.
Sandy McTeer. My girl.
Comments are coming in too fast.
Too fast for him to watch them. Okay, guys.
Oh, Diane Cochran.
Diane. Okay, so our 3 winners today of the Painting World digital subscription is Robin Miles, Claire Leroux, and Diane Cochran. So message us with your email addresses so that we can arrange to have those set up for you through Painting World magazine. And at the same time, I want to thank Cole at Painting World magazine and, of course, everybody at Viking Woodcrafts for their tremendous support this week with the giveaways for this week and for last week. We really do appreciate that. To Deckwort and to Dynasty for their continuing support. We have some fun giveaways for you next week. I'm not sure what we're doing next week when it comes to a painted piece. But we are going to do something. I don't know. So we will do something next week. So, having said that, this video will be up on my YouTube channel. So if you didn't get a chance to see the whole thing today and see it live, then it will be up later this afternoon on my YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on that so that you see what we're doing every week. Hopefully we'll be able to start putting out some other videos. We've just been a little strapped for time over the holidays. So, guys, yeah, we've had a lot of projects on the go in the last little while. So, guys, please stay safe. I know things are really rough for some right now. So, stay home, stay safe, and don't forget, love ya.